Okay, people, now this goes out to all those right-leaning people out there who say liberals or the left are a bunch of fascists. In a few seconds, I'm going to request, in fact, now, I'm going to request you pause my video, make a promise you will not delete the comment you put, and put in the comments a description of what you think a fascist is. Pause the video now and put that description down there. Now, I'm going to tell you what the right has told me the fascist is. They tell me that fascism is the government being too much into the people's lives. Too much government restrictions. They tell me is that it's the people wanting to force our beliefs onto you. Well, let me see how that goes. Let's see. Do I want the government to use the taxpayers that we pay into the government to help those that need it the most? Yeah, I do. But do I want the government in everyone's doctor's office to tell the patient what treatments they can or cannot have? No, I don't. Do I want the government telling a mother whose life is at risk that she can't get an abortion to save her own life? No, I don't. Do I believe in abortion? No, I don't. Will I push that belief onto others? No, I won't. Do I want the government in my life when I decide to end a child's life that I am carrying that ends up with a horrific birth defect, so that that baby is not born and have to suffer because of that birth defect? No, I don't. Do I want the government in my life telling me I have to give birth to a baby that I do not know what mental condition it may end up with, whether or not that child will be born with an STD, what birth defects that child may have, because I was raped or molested? No, I don't. Do I want the government inserting themselves into my doctor's office if I am a 10 or 11-year-old child who has been molested and is now pregnant and put at high risk of dying or the baby dying in that pregnancy? The government tell me I can't get an abortion for that? No, I don't. Do I want the government burning books simply because it teaches the history, the true factual history of the Civil War? No, I don't. Do I want the government burning books because it shows the history of black people in this country, how they came to this country, and the slavery they were 90% of them, not all, but 90% of them, the slavery, lifetime slavery, not indentured servitude, lifetime slavery they were placed into and never allowed to come out of? No, I don't. Do I want my government burning books on how the Native Americans had blankets given to them that were diseased with smallpox and other things and just about starved in reservations that the government forced them onto, and how they were not given citizenship on their own land by the government who stole their land until, what was it, the 1920s, the 1930s? No, I don't want the government burning those books. I want everybody in this nation to learn about these things, including how Asian people were treated, how many of them who worked on the railroad and were murdered by railroad workers and railroad companies to avoid paying them. I want my government to make sure every school has the opportunity to teach these things so that we can work to be better than what our ancestors were. Not so that we can make somebody feel bad because they're white or brown or black. No, I want that taught so that they can work to be better than that. Do I want somebody coming in and telling me who I should love, who I should be allowed to marry? No, I don't. Do I want the government coming in and telling me what I should believe religiously and what I should not believe religiously, and forcing me with public laws to believe these things? No, I don't. But this is what the right is doing to us and claiming that we are the fascists. We don't ask you to believe the same as us. Hell, even during COVID, we didn't tell you you had to get the vaccine. We asked that if you were going to be around us and possibly sick, that you wear a damn ass fucking mask and keep us safe. And take the most minimal of measurements to keep those around you safe. But that is not a personal belief. That is public safety. You don't want to get the vaccine? Fine. Wear a fucking mask. When there is no vaccine out there to protect those you are infecting. But you want to force everybody to not get a vaccine. You want your choice to be everybody's choice, whether they believe in it or not. You want your religious rules to be everybody's religious rules, whether you believe it or not. Now, I am banking that with what I just described, if you go back down and read in the comment what you just wrote as a description of what fascism is, I just described it all, and you, the right, are the one who are implementing it on the nation. It's not the liberals. We are calling for something totally different than what you are calling for. But you choose to call us the fascists. You choose to call us the communists. You choose to call us socialists. And we're not even that. Not 100%. Do we believe in some social programs that are meant to benefit the people who pay taxes? Who actually pay taxes? And pay more than their fair share? Yes, we do. That's what those taxes are there for. To keep our country safe and to take care of the people who need it. Do we insist that the government makes sure that employers out there are paying their workers a living wage and not hiking the price of their products so high that their workers can't pay for it and still are not on a living wage because they want to make that 34 billion in profit? Yeah. We want them paying the workers a fair wage. A living fair wage. We want them to not hike those prices so that they can have that 34 billion in profit. And personally, the way I see it is us customers and the people working in their factories to make their product are the reason why they get away with it. If we would stop being so insistent on the name brand, or gotta have this brand or that brand, and we would be more insistent on finding lesser brand products that don't cost as much but are just as good, and start telling people when we buy a product when it is equal to those name brands or when it is not as good, so that more people can understand what the hell is going on and be able to get the same kind of product for a lesser price. These companies would stop doing this. Because without their workers or their customers, they wouldn't be as rich. They wouldn't be making that $34 billion in profit. And you wonder out there why it is we talk about getting electric vehicles, but you're out there saying, no, we gotta have our gas guzzlers. We gotta have our gas guzzlers. Because as long as you're insisting on that gas guzzler, that oil company has permission to treat you like crap, to pay their workers less than a living wage, to hike the cost of the product you're putting in your car and using to the point where you can't afford it, while they're making 34 billion in profits. Going out and buying another yacht and taking a year-long vacation while you're doing everything you can to bust your ass and just make enough money to pay your bills and keep your house and pay your taxes. That 30% you pay is so much more important than the 15 to 0% that rich guy that employed you is getting. So keep it up. If you ever get what you want, don't complain when you lose a lot of your rights, because if you think the Republicans are going to stop with just the gays or women, think again. You think they're going to stop with voter suppression of the black and the brown people, think again. Because they know. And your Second Amendment thing, if the Republicans got what they want, there would be no Second Amendment. Because they know that if they implemented everything they wanted, they would have a dictatorship. And even those that voted for them would be standing up and calling for their heads. So they won't want you to have a gun. We are out here asking that common sense gun laws be made. Not that guns be taken away from everybody. We ask that in every state there are background checks that must be passed in every state before somebody could own a gun. We are asking in every state that if you want to conceal and carry, you must have a permit. We ask in every state that they make sure that if somebody's having a psychological breakdown or is a danger to themselves or somebody else, that they are not allowed to own a gun. And if they have that gun, that the government is able to take that gun away from them and deem them as unfit to have one until they pass the medical treatment needed to make them worthy of that. I mean, hell, my son has seizures. And because he has seizures, a doctor signed a note saying, yeah, this kid can't drive anymore. He's having too many seizures. He's unsafe on the road. That day, he went in to get his driver's license and his tabs on his car redone. And guess what? Because he thought he would beat it to the DMV and make sure he at least had a year's worth of driving he could do in his car and maybe 5 or 10 years worth of driving with his driver's license. No. That day when he went in, he couldn't get his tabs and he couldn't get his driver's license because that day, that information was already in the DMV database. Now, if they can do that with a patient who has seizures in the DMV, why can't they do that with the National Registry of Guns? Why can't they? I mean, the doctor didn't even need to know my son had a car or a driver's license. He just put the info into a national database. When the DMV went to look up for his eligibility for a car, that information popped up right away. Popped up when he moved to Minnesota, too. That information will pop up anywhere he moves in the United States if he tries to register a car or get a driver's license. That he is unfit to be able to drive a car because his seizures puts himself and others in danger. If they can do that at the DMV, they can do that with guns. And every place that has sales of guns should be able to pull up a national registry thing, and at the beginning be able to look and say, wait, hold it, you can't have a gun, there's a red flag. Or the background where they send the paperwork for a background check. The firearm and tobacco place should be able to pull that up and instantly see, no, this person cannot have a gun because he is a danger to himself and others. But you people are out there hollering, we want to take everyone's gun away. No! Even George Washington restricted who could have a gun and who couldn't. If you were insane, you could not have a gun. If you were black or brown, you could not have a gun. If you were white and not insane, you could have a gun. They even restricted what type of gun you could have. If you wanted a simple handgun for protection and a simple rifle for hunting, you could have that gun. If you wanted a cannon or a hand cannon, which today they call them bazookas, because the projectiles are a bit different, but basically they're hand cannons. You are not allowed to own them. You could have a simple rifle and a simple handgun. You wasn't even supposed to be owning a Gatling gun. That was for military use, not for personal use. So throughout history, because of the reading of the Second Amendment, which most of you haven't done, people have been restricted from owning a gun and what type of gun they can own. From the conception of the Constitution. But you have twisted that. And when it comes to your gun, you don't want the government coming in and telling you that you can or cannot have a gun that can kill somebody. But you want to go into a woman's life and tell her whether or not she can have an abortion if her baby is going to kill her. Or if her baby is going to be born with a horrific birth defect. Oh, you can't take your gun away. No, can't do that. The Second Amendment. You can't take that gun away from anybody or tell anybody what type of gun they can have. No. But you can walk into a doctor's office and tell that doctor he cannot give his patient a procedure that will save her life because of your own religious belief. Oh, you can't take your gun away. No. You can't do that. But you can walk into somebody's life and tell them whether or not they have a right to get married. And to tell them they are not worthy of having the same public services in a public building that is required to follow constitutional law, that they can't have that service. You want to run your business by your religious beliefs? Then zone your fucking business as a religious business. Otherwise, you serve everyone in the public equally, according to the Constitution of the United States of America. You don't get to subvert the Constitution. And just because we insist you zone your business as a religious business, if you want to run it by your religious beliefs so that you spare the public of the humiliation of your rejecting and your condescending judgment on others. When somebody you don't agree with comes into your business and wants service, you won't serve a gay person, but you have no or a transgender person or a lesbian or a bisexual, but you have absolutely no problem serving a woman who is divorced, which is against your religion. You have no problem serving a man who is part of the mafia, so long as he's marrying a woman. For Lord's sake, you can't give another human being who happens to be born LGBTQ the same service as you give those other people in a public business that is mandated to follow the laws of this country and the laws of the Constitution. Because you have the right to push your religious beliefs onto everybody else and tell others who has the right to exist and who doesn't, according to your religious beliefs. Without even one thought. One thought. And that is, if God thought these people were abomination, and he didn't want them created, he would go, and they'd be gone. One thought. Without one thought. Without one thought of maybe the reason why God creates these people is to test you, to see if you're capable of loving them unconditionally as a human being, the way you expect God to love you, without one thought to the fact your Bible, your own religious text, tells you that nothing in heaven or in earth can be created without God. But yet, the LGBT community exists. Yet, there are babies born with both male and female sex organs. There are children born with the XXY chromosome and the XXX chromosome and the XYY chromosome. All conditions that make these people fit into the LGBTQ community. But you have the right to tell them, because of your own religious belief, that you push onto them, that they don't have the right to exist. They don't have the right to have love. They don't have a right to have a family. They don't have a right to be loved by God, who created them. Because you think you're God. Greatest trick Satan ever pulled. It wasn't that he convinced people that he didn't exist. That was just a byproduct of his greatest trick. His greatest trick was convincing people like you that you had the right to judge for God. You had the right to determine who God should create and who God shouldn't. And because of your indignation and your belief that you have those rights, you have turned so many away from God into believing there is no God. Because you fell for Satan's tricks. You fell for it. And every day you're out there and you're hollering about placing your religious rules onto everybody else. You're falling for Satan's tricks. And he's sitting back and he's saying, this little cubicle over here, that one's for that person over there. Yeah. You know what she did? She refused to serve LGBTQ citizens on earth and to treat them as equals, to love thy neighbor as they love themselves. She refused and judged thy neighbor as they will surely be judged in heaven when they go before God. She refused and told God who he could create. Told God who he had a right to create. So I got a nice, comfy, cozy little room over here. And, since they're so gullible, I have a great job for them. They're going to bring a lot of souls down to us. Yeah, they are. He's waiting for you. So think about it. Everything I described is describing what you put as the description of what a fascist is. And you have the audacity to call the left a fascist. You need to get in front of your mirror